I don't even hardly know how to describe what we saw that day, but I didn't know anything like that existed. Obviously, India is very poor and needy, but the people in this place were at a whole nother level. When we got out of the car, they were staring at us like they'd never seen anything like that before. Many of them had no clothing at all, or the clothing that they did have was just filthy, like they'd been wearing it for years. We actually went up to this one little girl. She was just sitting on the side of the road. She had no clothes, and she was eating out of this little dish that her mom had given her. And I looked at what she was eating, and it was just completely rotten. And she didn't even respond to the sound of my voice. I sat down next to her. I was trying to communicate with her. And her eyes were so dead, she didn't even hardly notice that I was there. And I started to stroke her hair and just pat her on the back. And it was like she didn't even see me. I wanted to experience that, but I don't think I was hardly ready for what we saw. It was honestly kind of frustrating because I knew there was so much in my heart that I wanted to do, but I just couldn't figure out what my place was. I knew I was called to the mission field, I knew I was called to the nations, but I knew there was something on the inside of me just tugging, and I just couldn't figure out what that was. I honestly had a lot of anxiety before the first time we went to India. It was just unlike any place I'd ever been to. We'd been to a lot of Latin American countries, but India was just something completely new for me. The second I stepped foot in India, I just completely fell in love with it. I told a member of our team that I really wanted to go see an orphanage. Now I'm thinking, you know, this big pretty building with a playground outside and kids running around, and maybe I could hear some of their stories. That's what I was expecting. We reluctantly walked through this pastor's home and around to the back of their home. And when we got there, we saw this constructed building, if you could even call it a building. It was more like a structure. It was cement blocks, a tin roof, and completely dirt floor. And we started walking up to this room, and when we walked inside, there were probably 70 children sitting on the floor of this room. And mind you, it's probably over 100 degrees outside. There's all these kids just sitting there, watching us, looking at us with these expectant eyes and just staring at us. My heart just sank. And I'm looking at these children, and immediately I turned to this family and I said, "Who are these kids? Where are they from? What are they doing here?" And they began to tell me with the sadness in their voice that all of these children are complete orphans. They have no father, they have no mother, they have no caretakers at all. And each one of these kids was simply walking to this house to receive their one meal that they would receive and eat that day. As the woman actually began to cry, she started to tell me that each one of these kids would go back to wherever they came from. Maybe the slums, maybe the streets, begging. She actually described it as sleeping under the shade of a palm tree until the next day. Something in me was just outraged. I didn't know whether to cry because I felt so bad. I didn't know whether I should be mad, knowing that this is happening and no one's doing anything about it. But I was just overcome with every emotion, and in that moment I knew that I was allowed to see this for a reason, that I was sitting in this place for a reason, and that I was there to do something about what I had just seen and witnessed.
Now that I have seen, I am responsible.
When I got home, it was like this secret that I couldn't keep to myself. I would tell the people in the grocery line, I would tell every single one of my friends. We didn't know if we should call Habitat for Humanity and try to build them a home. We didn't know if we should start trying to find friends who want to adopt kids. We really didn't know what to do, but all we knew is that we were going to build them a home. Every single day that passed, that home was not built, that these kids were living on the streets. The Indian staff that we were working with was so excited to get the home built. They actually had a groundbreaking ceremony when we had only actually raised $25. So we had $25 on our way to $25,000, and the project had already started. So we obviously had a lot of work to do. I was so nervous. I was so excited. I was just so anxious to get there. I had seen some of the pictures of the construction that had been emailed to us, and I remembered a lot of the kids that were there that day. We pulled over this hill, and I could see it far off in the distance. I could see the home sitting on top of this hill, and there were kids everywhere. And they were lined up outside the door just waiting for us. And I can barely describe how I felt seeing that home for the very first time. The second we stepped off the bus, it was just the biggest celebration that I've ever seen. All the children were smiling. They looked completely different than the last time I had seen them. Two little girls that just completely melt my heart to this day. I have huge pictures of them up in my office. One of the little girls' name is Ronnie, and the other little girl is named Navina. And these are some of the most special little girls that I've ever met in my whole entire life. They're probably about 6 years old, and they are a part of the very first Angel House. They were just glued to my side the entire time, and it was just so much fun for me to get to experience through their eyes the very first time that they would ever lay on a bed, and the very first time that they would ever lay their little heads on a pillow. And we had such a celebration. The look on their faces that day was like they were running into Disney World. They were so cute. They were the most perfect little kids that you've ever seen in your entire life. Anyone would just be so happy to have these kids be a part of their life. But what's so sad was hearing some of their stories and how they became a part of Angel House.
I just want you to know Rinko's story. He's 14 years old. His father is in prison, and his mother passed away suddenly. And so he had no place, no home, but this wonderful house parents here have taken him in.
This is Priyanka Roy. She has lost both parents.
She came here, and because she lost her mother, nobody is there to take care of her. Father already married to another lady.
We are just devastated to hear the story of this boy. He was scheduled to come into the home because his father had abandoned him, and his mother was very, very sick with cancer. His mother, we just learned, passed away 2 hours ago, 2 hours before we arrived.
This beautiful little girl's name is Pavuni. When Pavuni was young, her dad died of HIV, and after her dad had died, her mom actually abandoned her to go live with another man.
Sujata and Jhansi, they are from tribal background, and they lost their father, and mother, she getting into prostitute.
We're here right outside the Angel House where the girls were temporarily living for the last year. As you can see, it's very small. There's only one bed, and 50 girls were living in this room. Obviously they use it for storage now, but if you can imagine 50 girls living in this room.
This is Pooja Mandal. Her father died and mother left her. She had to do some hard work as child labor to get her daily food.
You don't know his father, mother, and somebody lived in one place. He used to beg there. After 6 months, every time he begged, and he would sleep in the roadside only.
There was one little girl who is so beautiful, and she was born with a deformity on her hand. And there's nothing wrong with her. She is beautiful, but this deformity on her hand at birth caused her family to see her as bad luck. It's something in the Indian tradition to where they didn't want her, and she was actually abandoned on the front porch of this house. And luckily our staff was there and our team was there to rescue this little girl who was completely uncared for. I know so many people see things like this on TV every day. There's bad news every time you turn the channel. You hear about people who are hungry. You may hear about natural disasters. You may even hear the statistics about orphans and poverty and children. But nothing can prepare you for what it actually feels like when you're standing in the midst of a disaster. When you're walking around and you're literally seeing these kids that should be going to school and playing. Everything that we saw was just unlike anything you could see on TV. On TV, you can turn the channel. You might even get sad about it for a little bit and have intentions to do something. But once you've been there, once you see the stories, once you see the kids' faces, you can't look away. You can't go about your normal life without getting involved. You can't just turn away like you didn't see it. Each child that enters an angel house is given a brand new life on all different levels. They are first of all enrolled in school. Some of them for the very first time. We give them a backpack that is just loaded full of school supplies, everything that they would need for an entire year of school. Some of the schools in India don't even allow the kids to come inside without school shoes. So we take the kids shopping, we fit them for their first pair of brand new school shoes. We buy them brand new clothes, because for some of these children, they've had hand-me-down after hand-me-down and just worn anything that they could get their hands on. They get 3 meals a day, everything that they could want. We build a freshwater well next to the home, so they have unlimited clean drinking water. And last but not least, and most importantly, we find the perfect house parents that are going to live at this home and take care of these children and love on these children and tell them how special they are every single day, and just are a major role model in these kids' lives, and that are going to help to raise these children until they're 18 years old and they're ready to go out on their own into the world. The future of Angel House is so bright. People are just taking the vision and running with it. You know, in 2010 we built 1 house. In 2011 we built 11 houses. And by the end of 2012 we will have 34 angel houses with over 1,000 kids in that. Our goal right now is to reach 100 angel houses in India, and then we want to expand. We want to put angel houses all over the world in the neediest regions of so many countries. It just really puts life into perspective. There's actually children right now who are living in these horrible situations, and with Angel House we know that we're making the difference for them. We know that we are their mouthpiece. We know that we're here completely to be a voice for the kids that no one knows about, and we know that we can help to change their life.